Hi there, friends of Iceland, and welcome to this chat about Icelandic music. This is my friend Arnar over here. He's a renowned journalist in Iceland, has written 3 books about Icelandic music, and has a PhD in music sociology.
Yes, it's true. Music sociology.
Okay.
That's exactly that.
Okay. Okay. Did you were you researching Icelandic music in that when you were doing that, or what were you?
Actually, I did that. I did my studies in Scotland.
Okay.
And I wrote a PhD thesis about the Society of Icelandic Musicians.
Okay.
It's not a formal society, but everyone that operates as a musician in Iceland, they do it in a certain manner. They do it in a certain way. There are ties and connections between active Icelandic musicians. And of course, being a musician in Iceland has, other aspects to it than being a musician in Greenland or Sweden or the UK.
Okay.
So I was looking at that and actually interviewing musicians, just asking, hey, how do you, go about your day? How is it to be a musician in Iceland?
Okay.
So it was not a story. It was more like this sociological inspection.
Okay. So you're comparing it to like musicians in other countries, or just
No, that would be a future research.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's an idea to do a comparative research, because that would show us even better, how music life is in Iceland compared to maybe Denmark, and that would also benefit the Danes to see if you mirror yourself in other people.
Okay. Do you think there are any benefits of being in Iceland, like an Icelandic musician? Why are we? We are crazy about things per capita, per person. Being so few, it's very easy for us to be the best in many things, or the worst. But we have record numbers of musicians and writers and stuff like that. Why is that?
This is a good, because you talk about the benefits. This is a good question, because what we've seen in Iceland, and what you know about Iceland popular music, which we're gonna focus on today, I would like to, with my friend Valur here, try to inform you about the music community in Iceland and how music is here. And I've often thought about the benefits and the non-benefits of being an Icelandic musician.
Yeah.
And the Icelanders, we are 350,000. We are like a micronation.
Mm-hmm.
And that steers us in so many ways, and in ways that we often don't detect when we're just going about our ways.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the word proximity. There are points of contacts, everywhere. Me and Valur, we would find a mutual friend, within minutes. We would talk about it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's the case with everyone here in Iceland. And but to answer the question, the benefits is, of course, it's easy to be a musician in Iceland in that way. Bureaucracy is slim. There's a little bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
You can get your music across relatively easily. And there's this village factor, this neighbor factor, that the musicians tend to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, people in the heavy metal scene, they know the people in the hip hop scene.
Yeah, it's a small scene.
It's a small scene, so it's a small scene. So the scenes are talking to each other. The jazz scene and the heavy metal scene, even if they don't know each other personally, everybody knows of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But then the non-benefits is, of course, that if you're in a small nation, after a year you've played for everybody twice.
Yes, been there, done that.
Yes, that's why, and that explains our willingness to export our music,
Mm-hmm.
Simply to get more people to listen, and to buy it, and to make a career.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rarity to have a 100% job as a musician. In Iceland.
Yeah.
It's more difficult than in other countries.
Yeah, if you're playing popular music in Iceland, as you said, most musicians are working other jobs also. If your focus market is Iceland,
Yes.
of course we have exemptions for that, and many exemptions compared to how few we are, but we'll get to that. But what's the, we are...
I see people are commenting. That's great. From all over the world.
Hi, Vicky. Hi, Terrence, Margaret.
Hey, Patrick. Hey, Ruthhild. Keep on rocking, guys.
And don't be shy in asking us questions. We will try to check it out later on. We'll start with something. We'll start with the influences of Icelandic music. As we're here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, we're of course influenced by both North American music and then also British music and European music. So
you're correct. That's a good question also. And guys, throw in comments. We will try to open the floor for questions at the end.
Yes.
But this is good because I just wanted to touch on for you. I know you're interested in this. Just to touch on, and quite briefly, the history of Icelandic popular music, and just to sum up like the 50s very briefly. There we are very much under the influence of the US and the US base, because the US Army had a base in Keflavik, the Keflavik airport, where there were 5,000 people working. So the military, US had a very, strong, what do you say? A strong
presence.
Strong presence, and of course a strong cultural presence, because they imported a television station and a radio station as well.
At the time, there was no public. There was a public radio, but no playing popular music from abroad, and that kind of opened the doors for Icelanders to listen to all kinds of music.
Yeah, so the Icelanders got almost like a head start for the American rock and roll, and we were quite good with following the latest trends in the rock and roll area, and of course influenced by UK and of course Scandinavia as well. But Iceland has for a long time been. People say that Icelanders are very Americanized, and I think it's true to an extent.
Yeah. Of course, we are heavily influenced by movies and music, and so I think it's a strong in our DNA.
So to finish off the 50s, the Icelandic musicians were replicating, we were simulating the rock and roll music from afar.
Yeah, just putting Icelandic lyrics on top of mostly like plain rock and roll.
Yeah, and that's what we did. But we were connected. You have to understand. Progression in Iceland was very swift. We were almost living in huts at the start of the 20th century. In the middle of the century, after the Second World War, developments were very quick. And come the 60s, we are still simulating and replicating, and we had our very own Beatles group.
Yeah, Hljómar from Keflavik. That's something that you should check out if you like your old music. Hljómar from Keflavik. Check that out.
Hljómar, which means the chords. The Hljómar were our Beatles, and they did that quite well, and they were, reflective of what was happening in the UK. Great band, as Valur says. Check it out, because the band is really good, and you can, you can get the songs on Spotify and wherever.
Yeah, there are several songs that are still, living and breathing with Icelandic culture today. So, obviously, stands that, the time is not a relevant factor there.
No, it's songs that are still like radio staples. And the 60s for us Icelanders, we are doing similar things as the other Scandinavian countries. The Danes and the Swedes, they were also having the Swedish Beatles, the Norwegian Beatles. The US and the UK had like this monopoly on culture almost. And we, the Icelanders, the little Icelanders, were just trying to follow suit, which we did. And, at the end of the 60s, we get a band called Trúbrot, which is like our version of hippie rock. And, but, as I say, simulating, doing the things like they're done outside of Iceland.
Yeah, but still with a little bit of an Icelandic twist.
Yeah.
Trúbrot is a unique band. Also, just it was a collection from the greatest bands at the time, and so all the best musicians, sort of got together and made this super group, Icelandic super group called Trúbrot. And I'll post some links after the chat. We'll post some links for some music for you to listen to, so you don't have to try to write down Trúbrot.
Wow. It's great to see the nations of the world are coming in.
Yeah, it's a fun software to be able to see the comments and be able to answer, and it's but simply great. So we're in the 70s, Trúbrot.
Yes, Trúbrot. They go well into the 70s. But we have a very interesting change in the 70s, and I so want to share this with you, and take out your drawing and pen and write this down, because interestingly, in the 70s we finally got something which we can call truly Icelandic music, and by that I mean that the Icelanders started to sing in Icelandic. Some of these musicians, like Valur will send you these names because they are, you can't write this down. I'm not talking about Johanna. But just bear with us. You will get these pointers and names. Some of these guys were veterans from the 60s. They had tried their hand at trying to do something abroad with it didn't work. So one of these guys, Egill Ólafsson, he said, we thought, well, we might just do our stuff. No one is listening anyway, so let's just do our stuff. Then a certain creation of truly Icelandic music began with, there was a guy called Megas, our Icelandic Bob Dylan, we could say. He sang Icelandic lyrics and made fun of us Icelanders. He talked about how unlucky Ingólfur Arnarson was to find Iceland. Funny stuff like that. Spilverk Þjóðanna was like a folk pop band. They wrote like socio-realistic lyrics about drab life in Iceland, how it was to grow up in grey 70s Iceland. This had never been done before.
And also they had like cultural roots. They were also like going basically back in time, like the old Icelandic music, the rhymes and stuff like that they were using. Absolutely.
There were these four things which I've said, Megas did the Icelandic heritage, Spilverk did the Icelandic lyrics, Stuðmenn, another name, they did the Icelandic humor and the flippant humor.
Yeah, the black humor also.
Black humor, and then the fourth point is Fursaflokkurinn, where they were using old Icelandic rhymes and old Icelandic music and put it into like a prog rock setting, kind of like Jethro Tull were doing for you music nerds out there. But please look this all up. The music is great. I'm getting a bit excited here.
Yeah, I see that. It's wonderful. But like I said earlier, we'll post links to most of the music that we'll talk about today. So don't worry, you don't have to try to write it down. Fursaflokkurinn with a letter. But so there came a kind of like a Icelandic culture music in that time. So what's next?
Let's just go straight into the 80s, and there we have funny things going on, and we are still managing here to give you this extracurricular, interesting, special Icelandic thing, because punk rock music, that was very interesting how that arrived to Iceland, because it almost did not arrive.
Yeah, it arrived really late.
It arrived really late, and historians are still trying to find out why that exactly happened. And like UK punk was driven by anger and unemployment.
Yeah, Sex Pistols and all that.
But what was happening here in Iceland, that we had too much employment. So no one was angry.
Yeah.
So there was no angry driver for punk rock music. So when it finally came, it was more like just, hey, let's play punk music. It was not, I'm so angry because I don't have a job.
No, and it was really a young, there was really young generation like going for the punk. We're talking about 14, 15 on the bus station here called Hlemmur, and they were hanging around, and it was kind of like a
So I was just going to say that it was a funny because punk rock started in 76, 77. It was not until 1981 that it came here to Iceland. And then we got like a package of all kinds of music, all kinds of punk styles. We got post-punk, regular punk, synth punk. And it was a very Icelandic way of doing things. It was like the Icelanders woke up 81, hey, Valur, we forgot about punk rock. And then, okay, let's do it.
We need to do something about that.
Yeah, þetta reddast. Let's just do it. That was happening in the early 80s, punk rock. Then we got a name which we sent to you, a name which is very important for this decade, is of course Bubbi Morthens.
Yeah.
Bubbi, B-U-B-B-I. He was like, he owned the 80s almost.
Yeah, like a collection of Bruce Springsteen, and
Joe Strummer.
Yeah, Joe Strummer, Dylan. It was a collection of all kinds of musicians.
That's a good description. Springsteen, Dylan, and Joe Strummer all rolled into one.
Yes.
He did his protest lyrics and led a punk group. Then he also did the solo career. He was very prolific. Released a lot of albums and still releasing a lot of albums. I think there's about 50 albums to his name.
Yeah, I think he released at least one album per year. So and more than that actually. So we're talking about a 40-year career, and I think he released about 50 albums.
And he's a towering figure here in Icelandic music. You can't escape Bubbi. And all of us, especially when we're at the age of me and Valur, we know 30 Bubbi songs by heart. Just by it's sewn into our DNA just by listening to radio.
Almost every party, when you go to a party in Iceland, there's a Bubbi song played, strumming along with some guy with a guitar or girl, and sing along.
So he became like world famous in Iceland in this decade, and he sold maybe 30,000 copies of his albums, which is a lot in Iceland, 30,000, 300,000. And so he was a superstar. Also, which we have to mention, and that's our gateway to the foreign countries music-wise, the year zero really is when the Sugar Cubes were formed. And they released an album in 1988 called Life's Too Good. This was the start of, and I'm not talking about Meso Forte, that was a one-hit wonder group in 1983. But as I say, the Sugar Cubes were year zero in the interest that Iceland has gotten from foreign countries, and we're still reaping that reward.
Yeah, for sure. Sugar Cubes also, of course, Björk, of course, and yes, that was kind of like a start of her career, and they were playing all over, and that was kind of like we had some one-hit wonders, some music that reached some countries, but Sugar Cubes were kind of like the catalyst, like Arnar told you.
Yeah, and the first band from Iceland which had a career, they released 3 albums, they toured abroad, they got written up in the press, and that was also the start of which sometimes we Icelanders struggle with is, all the nature, can I say the nature porn, which you sometimes get. This emphasis on that if you're from Iceland, then you must be influenced by nature making a music, and I'm not saying that's not true, but we also have bands here which are absolutely not influenced by nature.
Of course. Influenced by the elves. And
and this is, of course, this is a simplified version, which is understandable. But the papers quickly started to write about the elfin-like looks of Björk and so on.
We were not shy in using that for our advantage, basically. using the power of the hidden people and going for it.
And you have to understand, people, that this was in the 80s. If you met a foreign person in the street, you would ask, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah. How did you land up in Iceland, of all places?
It had this backwater society, we could say, reputation, or it was olden times. So it was a big news that there was an Icelandic band making waves abroad. But this changes even more when we enter the 90s. The 90s is, you have to remember, the age of the internet as well, and that opens gateways, bridges. It gets simpler to get your message across, the music across. So there's just a lot more activity. There are more scenes happening here. We have the homegrown pop scene, Sálinasjónsmýs, Nýdönsk. We have a death metal scene. We have a new wave rock scene, Maus, Kólrasakrókurinn, Ensími, all of those bands. We get a little bit of dance and electronica. And Björk establishes her solo career in the 90s, releases 3 albums, Debut, Post, and Homogenic. And, it's incredible when you think about Björk. How can a musician which is that weird be that mainstream at the same time? This is an absolutely incredible feat in many ways.
Yeah. She touched on some unknown nerve or something like that. It's really strange that, like you said, like music is very otherworldly. It's a little bit strange. It's not mainstream, but still it reached a mainstream audience. So just brilliant.
And as I say, like with why punk arrived so late, we're still trying to find out how this actually happened. But of course, you can see, and first 3 albums are, there are poppy melodic tunes there, but also weirdness that, made her name. So the 90s is all eyes and ears are on Iceland. The first band which I want to mention, which really steps into that door, she opened this, or through that door, is Gus Gus. And they were, for me, the start of the 101 scene, the cool hip Reykjavik scene. They drove that a little bit, and then to give you the last, or the other big news of the 90s, we can say, is when Sigur Rós released their album Ágætis byrjun at the tail end of the 90s in 1999, and that was another success story. And as I was saying to Valur before we started this live stream, Björk and Sigur Rós are the names that people bandy about when they're talking about Icelandic music.
Yeah, Arnar has a really fun music. When you're able to travel to Iceland, you can join Arnar for some history and see the scenes where some of the Icelandic music happened, so check that out when you're able to travel.
Yeah, private stories of drunkenness among Icelandic popular musicians, straight from the horse's mouth. Yeah,
and there are some. That's also just to mention it. We're talking about the size of the market. There are just a couple of places where most of the musicians hung out at the time, and still do. There are some crowds that are at this place or this place. So people, different musicians, playing different styles of music, they would hang and have a couple of beers and have a chat. So so many musicians have done rock and into pop and into dance music. So it's a varied some.
Yeah, you can't have the luxury here in Iceland to specialize, really. That's one of the things that people have complained about, that you come to Iceland, I'm only gonna be a jazz drummer, and it doesn't work if you're gonna work as a musician. But they also look at it, and we're trying to be positive here, they also look at it as a positives, because they get opened, as you say, they open up to all kinds of music that you wouldn't do if you were playing jazz in New York, where you can do that every night just because you have the numbers to show up.
This is also like a part of Icelandic mentality. We go into all work. Þetta reddast. We are not afraid of trying anything out. We don't say no. We just this is the work we need to do.
Mhm.
Let's figure it out. So this is also part of into Icelandic musicianship.
Yeah, absolutely true there. And there's a great question there which I'm going to pick up because you're very timely. Yes, we're in 12 Tónar, the great record store here in downtown.
Yeah.
The downtown area.
Yeah, recommend to check that out. It has a coffee house. You can grab a beer and listen to music. There's an LP player here and record player. So just a perfect place for you to if you want to discover some Icelandic music to come here.
Very nicely situated here in the downtown area and brilliant staff. They know their stuff. So check that out. Absolutely. I want to take Scott. You ask, how important has airwaves been to Icelandic music culture?
Yeah.
And that has absolutely been a pivotal thing because that was established in 1999 as well. And it starts as a proper, because now we can go into the first decade, as a proper downtown music festival. It started out in the year 2000. Mm. That was the autumn 2000 when Iceland Airways started. And to answer your question, it has been a very important venue for Icelandic bands because it's a yearly festival. It draws together all the people from the industry, both the Icelandic ones and from afar. Mm. The bands, they put on their good suit, metaphorically, because they know there are sharks in the audience which are looking for the next big thing. So it's a nice injection of fuel for the Icelandic scene. Mm-hmm. And it's somehow just, it has been, and just, bridging and tying groups together. So.
Yeah, it was the first music festival of any degree in Iceland that focused on markets abroad. Mm-hmm. So it's of course also good for Icelandic music, but for export that was kind of like a catalyst. So I think Iceland Airways should get all the credit they can. We have some Icelandic music festivals here, for example, Þjóðhátíð, the national festival in the Westman Islands, but that's mainly focused on Icelandic bands, like playing for Icelandic people in Icelandic. So mostly. So yeah.
And we've done well, incredibly well, as you can hear. These are Icelanders talking. We've done incredibly well, establishing a heavy metal festival in the East Fjords.
Yeah, that's a brilliant festival.
Yeah, it's called Eistnaflug, the flight of the testicles. And they have done, it's a small, compact, focused heavy metal festival, and they just done great by establishing it somehow. And they've gotten big bands from foreign shores to headline, and then all the Icelandic bands come and play as well. Also a small, nice festival like Aldrei fór í Suður, which is in the West Fjords.
Yeah, during Easter.
Yeah.
So that's I'll put also link to some music festivals after we finish this. So maybe you get some ideas for when to travel to Iceland. Maybe check out a Icelandic music festival.
And then in the 2000s, for me as a scholar, researching these things, in the 2000s, you are fortifying and strengthening this image of cool Iceland, where you wear a wool sweater and you go to wander into the lava and you get inspired to write a beautiful song. And
that's for those who were exporting music. But there was also internal scene, where there are bands there that are for example, I just have to name my band called Buttercup.
Of course.
Thank you. And we were playing on all over Iceland in the 2000s. There were bands like Skítamórat, Írafár, Sóldök, Land og Synir. So 2000, Icelandic pop music, playing Icelandic pop rock for Icelanders. And then we had the export scene, of course, on the side.
That's a good point there, because at the start of the 2000s, and it was for a time at least, it was focused on the southern region of Iceland, and it was like a second wave of this homegrown Icelandic pop. There was one at the start of the 90s. This was at the start of the 2000s. Yeah, people playing for home market, and this I call it like all Icelandic pop happening. And then you have the export bands, and then you have all kinds of scenes here in Iceland, because people often think that Icelandic music is Björk and Sigur Rós and that's it.
Yeah.
But we manage incredibly here in Iceland, even we are a few people, we manage to have quite a diversity.
Yeah, and let's not forget the rock bands that were playing there, and also at the time, beginning of the 2000s, great rock bands.
Yeah, like the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
Mean and also a big hip hop scene where the Icelanders finally ditched the English and started to rap in Icelandic.
Yeah,
and that was also an important scene for us. So
of course, Quarry started there late. What was 96, 97?
Yeah, they started late 90s, and Quarasi, which was like a rock band. They made brilliant inroads into America and released an album there on Sony.
Yeah, and Japan also. They were big in Japan.
So but I'm often amazed when I think about this. The hardcore scene, the pop scene, and the hip hop scene. They were all happening at the same time.
Yeah, and of course the rock scene, like with 200,000 naglbítar and more. So there were so many. Yeah,
and then just to wrap it up, because I want to have time for general discussion as well. I'm just going to wrap up this chronological thing. We have the second decade of the new century. Well, we have one big news there, which I'm just going to focus in on. Then, let's talk about Hildur Guðna and Jóhann Jóhannsson as well. But just the big news of this decade is, of course, which has just passed, of Monsters and Men. And I've been... it's been really funny for me when I'm doing my Reykjavik Music Walk tours. Often people are then only realizing, oh, it's an Icelandic band. And why are people so surprised? Because Of Monsters and Men is, no band has gone higher on the Billboard chart, the American Billboard chart, than Of Monsters and Men. That's because Of Monsters and Men have never played the Icelandic card fully.
Yeah.
And so they're doing this, we could say, general folk pop somehow. And there was a brilliant interview with one of the members, and he said, well, what's weird about Of Monsters and Men is that we are not weird.
Yeah, okay.
Because we have Sigur Rós and Björk both making music outside of the mainstream, weird, otherworldly music. Of Monsters and Men are not doing that. And so the connection is lost in some way. So, but it's absolutely true. What's weird about Of Monsters and Men is that they're not weird.
Okay. I'm very sorry if we forget to mention some Icelandic names and bands and musicians. Sorry for that, my fellow mates musicians.
Yeah, it's not on purpose, guys. It's not on purpose.
Yeah, this is a broad strokes.
Yeah, we will not accept any hate mail. Not any hate mail.
So so we have also Emiliana Torrini. We have Moom and Leaves. There are a couple of bands that are doing something.
Like these big bands, like Emiliana Torrini is a good example of a well-known pop star. You mentioned, what did you say? Leaves. Leaves were like a Radiohead-inspired band, which made some. Ruffled some feathers at the start of the 2000s. Great band.
I just want to mention Emiliana Torrini released a song that was huge, I think, Jungle Drum. So that was kind of like her big hit. And then she also had a song on Gollum song, I believe it's called.
In Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. So she, yeah.
And you said you Leaves, Emiliana Torrini, you had another name, Moom. Yeah. Moom were like electronica experimental group that came after Sigur Rós, and they fitted very nicely into this vision of Icelandic as a weird
elfish kind of music.
But Moom, I just wanna emphasize, Moom is one of my favorite bands. I think their vision and their ideas are absolutely great, and please check out their music as well. Just great stuff.
Hildur Guðna is, of course, the composer that got the first woman that got both an Oscar and Golden Globe and Emmy.
She got
all the awards for her score, sound. score to the Joker, and also to she was also with Chernobyl, the TV series. So she is like a brilliant composer, and she's from Moom, right?
Yeah, she was not in the original band, but she played with Moom a lot of times, and she was like a part of that extended circle.
Oh, okay.
And but yeah, absolutely, these were all friends from college and high school and all of that. But as a big side note, just so we won't forget, we've done well in like film music. Ólafur Arnalds, did the Broadchurch score and has done his stuff brilliantly. Jóhann Jóhannsson, who sadly passed away 1 or 2 years ago, he did brilliant music scores for Arrival and Sicario.
Theory of Everything.
Theory of Everything, and he was like a modern composer, but with roots in underground rock. And then Hildur Guðna, which was a colleague of Johan for a long time, is stepping into, I can trust you with that us Icelanders are watching with amazement and pride, because she's done really good. And just to be this first woman to get the Oscar, in that category is just brilliant.
Yeah, and we are, of course, really proud. We are a small nation, so everyone who makes the headlines abroad, we are all behind it. So we forgot to mention, like, for example, Páll Óskar, the disco queen of Iceland.
The disco prince and queen of Iceland, Páll Óskar, and the gay icon. Páll Óskar is a great guy. I just have to come up with that.
That's for you, Alexa and Alex.
Yeah, Páll Óskar, what can you say about him? He started his like solo career in the 90s.
Yeah.
And quickly became like Iceland's biggest pop star somehow.
Yeah. He's like he played in, he's played he's the icon for dance poppy music, and also like he has released several like albums where he just playing with the cellists. And
absolutely. He's done he's dipped his toes into variety of styles, always with the Páll Óskar trademark somehow. Outspoken for the rights of the LGBT blah 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 community. You know what I'm saying? He's a proper guy, and he's very popular here in Iceland, and he's our pop star somehow. I know that some of you know him. He has some international presence.
So that, of course, leads us into Eurovision. The phenomenon of Eurovision in Iceland, and craziness surrounding that.
Yeah, that's something we have to talk about. And we've Kaleo is also a band which have been doing greatly outside of Iceland. The Vintage Caravan is also a rock group. They're doing good stuff as well. And Asgeir as well.
Yeah. I would recommend also to check out Múgisson.
Yeah.
Brilliant musician, and such a cool vibe around him. And he's got part of this Elvis magic charm going on.
And as you can hear, guys, because me and Valur, we know all of these people, so we are getting very nervous of not forgetting anyone.
So we don't get, why didn't you mention me?
No, we're going to talk about Eurovision in Iceland. That's, I think the question was, how big is Eurovision in Iceland? It's really big. And we entered the competition in 1986.
Legendary year,
and of course, because we are Icelanders, we were sure that we would win the competition.
Always,
and I was genuinely shocked that we didn't. And then it has progressed here, and I want to mention this because
the first song was called "Bank of Joy." How can you not win with that?
A great song by one of our best songwriters, Magnús Eiríksson, which is in a band called Mannakot. He's a brilliant songwriter, singer-songwriter. So it was incredible that the Bank of Joy wouldn't win. No, I was going to say about Eurovision. And for me, this has been interesting for me as a sociologist. I've been interested to see how it has developed here in Iceland, that Eurovision is as well, it's a big gathering of families and friends. When it when it is held, it's of course a competition you watch in the television, and we send our competitors to the competition. But what has developed in the last maybe 10 years is this big, it's almost like Christmas, that people come around, they meet each other across generations, and they're giving scores and just enjoying time together.
Just to put it in broad strokes for you, maybe in the US. So there's a competition held here every year, like a half year before the actual Eurovision competition. So there are 10 songs chosen to be part of that competition. You send in your songs, and you get voted for being in the top 10, and then there's a competition, and that's also a big thing, like a competition before the winning song is chosen by sending in phone calls or like in calls. But so it's got a big lead up. You are listening to the 10 songs, you're choosing, you're picking sides. There's a
huge... talking about it by the water cooler.
Yeah, and in the geothermal swimming pool. So Eurovision this time, and so there's a big lead up onto the competition. You chose a song, and then the winning song gets a couple of months to prepare for the actual Eurovision contest that's held where the winner of the last year's competition is with the country. And so it's a huge thing. We're talking about there's no cars driving around in Iceland.
The streets are empty.
Everything stops. Everybody just gathers around. There's a party. There's a huge joyous momentous, and we always think we are going to win. And we're always so fed up with all the Eastern European countries that are voting and each other, and so it's a fun. There are so many elements to this Eurovision thing, and of course there's a movie called Eurovision on Netflix that was released last year and made Húsavík great again, so I recommend checking out that movie. And a lot of people thought that we would be angry about that movie because it shows Icelanders in a rather hillbilly way.
Yeah. Simplified terms, you could say, but it's just it's good fun.
Yeah, we loved it.
And it's good fun, and then you get there's the Icelandic landscape and all of that, and
the elves.
The elves, of course, they make their appearance. But to sum up, Eurovision is a big factor here, and I know there are other nations where the competition is really big, and and song-wise, we've sometimes almost won the competition, but we've not.
We've been in second place twice, so we're getting there. So we'll be next. I think Daði, the next year's he's competing this year, and there are some people saying that he will probably win this year because he had a very popular song, "Thinking About Things," last year that went viral because of there was a kind of a dance surrounding that song, and so he's going to win this year. Finally.
Of course. But so, we have time.
Yeah, some newcomers. I just want to mention real quick Auður, one of my favorite Icelandic newcomers. Or he's been around for a couple of years and a brilliant musician, and I really like his stuff. Then we have Bríet. She's had a great band album last year.
True.
And do you recommend anything any other songs, new songs?
These examples are really good about what's happening in, like, we could say, modern pop here in Iceland. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm thinking about a band which is a kind of homegrown and it's getting a good status, liked by all, like Moses Hightower. And they do great LPs. And then, of course, if you start to talk about homegrown talents like Bakkalútur.
Trapan was making mentions.
Bakkalútur, which are catering to the Icelandic market with the Christmas shows and all that jazz.
And I want to mention real quick, just so we don't forget the rock scene. So we have a band called Dimma, really popular here in Iceland, playing Icelandic rock or heavy rock and with Icelandic lyrics. Skálmöld, like Viking rock, really cool band. I would recommend that also. And finally, Solstafir, probably. That kind of like one of the rocky. Just want to mention them because.
Absolutely, and since we're there, since the 90s, we had quite a constant, we can call it like extreme rock, extreme metal scenes. They come and go, but it's always something going on. And that's, of course, a Scandinavian thing in general. Like in Iceland and Finland, I think the Icelanders and Finns have most heavy metal bands per day, of course.
Yeah, of course.
The bands that Valur mentions, like Solstafir, they play like this atmospheric black metal, very nice music. Skálmöld, they play like Viking metal or Viking rock. They're quite popular in Germany, for example. And these bands have, and Solstafir as well, they have, and that has also changed from like Sigurmólarnir, the Sugar Cubes, that the Icelandic bands, which we mentioned now, they can more easily have an international presence.
Yeah, and like we said about Skálmöld, there, for example, there are certain countries where they are really quite big. They're playing in big music festivals. So.
Yeah, bands are touring more. They're because of the internet and all of that, they're getting more presence. There's a band called Kælan Mikla. This is like a goth pop band, and I was just there. I'm also working at the University of Iceland as a teacher, and I'm running the university concert series. And Kælan Mikla is playing in a stream tomorrow, and this band has a fan page, Icelandic band, like a fan page, and they have a presence internationally. Okay. This band, and it's just lovely to see. And your heart takes a little bit when the Icelanders are doing good. And then I also want to mention, because we were talking about extreme rock, I've just been just this easier to manage. We have like a brutal scene, very brutal music, but they are selling their music to Europe and America through distribution websites and all of that. So if you're looking for it, it has never been easier to follow Icelandic music of all kinds than today.
Of course. So guys, do you have any questions for us? What I have here?
Yeah.
Alexa talking about Eurovision. Scott is talking about We Become Ravens by Rockspin. Who is that? Guðmundur Jónsson, Rockspin.
Yeah, and he's an electronic musician from Iceland, part of the, our little but big techno house electronica scene. Okay. It has a good presence in Europe, for example, which started in the 90s with a label called Thule, which was the first proper electronic music label here in Iceland.
So Alexa is asking here a Eurovision question. She doesn't understand why the song Min Hinsti Dans by Paul Oscar that we talked about, the pop star, didn't make it in Eurovision in 1997. Do you have a answer to that? Why he finished last, or what or 16th place,
or he didn't? His. Either he finished near the bottom, or he didn't advance to something. But as he has said himself, and I think there's a truth to it, he was ahead of his time. It was just too much. What is Julia saying more? Is she just surprised generally?
She was surprised that it didn't, basically placed higher. But the reason is, at least I think one of the reasons is that he was very provocative. There were dancers dancing around him. It was kind of like out there at the time, and he was like a leader for. After his performance, next year's performance, there were a couple of scenes like pretty provocative.
Yeah. He was implying stuff, and it was like a sexual heat in the performance. And as he said, and I will give him that he was too good.
So, any questions here? Let's look. You finished 20th. Will Kjartan return to Sigur Rós?
Probably not.
I doubt it.
I like these questions. I like this.
What's been the biggest gig held in Iceland?
The biggest gig?
Yeah, wasn't it on Laugardalsvöllur?
Wasn't it Metallica in
yeah. No, wasn't it Guns N' Roses? No,
Guns N'
no,
Roses,
it wasn't.
maybe.
It wasn't Guns N' Roses. It was the what's his name? The red-haired.
Yeah. Wow. Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, we of course we forgot about the biggest pop star in the world.
Yeah.
No, there have been, and I think it's very wise for me and Valur to go with numbers. People get iffy about numbers, but when Metallica played here, there were 18,000 people at the gig.
Yeah.
Then we've had huge outdoor gigs in Laugardalsvöll with Guns N' Roses and Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, was it 30,000 people?
30,000 people. So 10% of the Icelandic population were in this football stadium and watching Ed Sheeran and Guns N' Roses.
So this is one factor you should know about those who are watching here, is about big pop stars visiting Iceland, because there's a little bit of, we're just glad that someone wants to come.
Yeah, we're really happy about that. For a long spell, nobody came to Iceland, nobody big, but all of a sudden Iceland became a popular thing. We are always talking about before and after Eyjafjallajökull, the volcanic eruption. That was kind of like the catalyst for Icelandic travel. So people really saw this country with glaciers and volcanoes and all kinds of beautiful nature, and decided, put Iceland on the bucket list. So that was kind of like every year after that, it's been a 20% increase until like last year or 2018, 2019. So that was kind of like the catalyst. So then Iceland became a popular thing, and everybody wanted to travel here. And so then some of the big bands started to.
Yeah, that's true. It was very sporadic for a very long time, and out of the way somehow. If you live in Manchester or New York, all the bands go through. But here, we've not been so lucky. But we've had a lot of big artists.
Yeah, of course.
But so everything that if you don't have to fly to Copenhagen, that's fine. There was a question about what about the sugar cubes? We've already covered that, I know.
Yeah. The most people at a concert ever per capita, that's 30,000 people, like 10% of the Icelandic population at Ed Sheeran. Okay. So actually 2 concerts back to back. So I think that was
There's a good question here about venues. I think it's quite similar as in other cities. People are always worried about closing down of the venue. Mm-hmm. People get panicked that the live music sector is in danger, but somehow it always continues. Þetta reddast. It can get bad, but you can somehow hold it in, and a lot of them are, of course, located here in the city center of Reykjavik. And it's interesting how, because we're talking about bands, unfortunately, so many things are located in Reykjavik because almost half or more than half of the nation lives in the greater area.
2/3.
Yeah. So, that's the reason. But I'm not saying that there's music. Music is very prevalent in Iceland as a whole. Talk about the choirs, everybody are singing and everybody are doing music in some way in Iceland, and there are small concerts and festivals all around the coast. Mm-hmm. So, and I say around the coast, those who don't know the geography of Iceland, we mainly have to live by the coast.
Yeah. We are fortunate enough to have the Gulf Stream like circumventing Iceland, and that's the only reason why Iceland is in a habitable rock.
Yeah, because if you see it on a map, you think no one's living here.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
But I just want to mention, so Ivana mentioning Junius Meyvant. He's from the Westman Islands, so I'm also from the Westman Islands, so I have to
take it away, Valur.
I have to mention him. check out Junius Meyvant. He's a brilliant musician. And like I said, I'm gonna put a list, probably do a blog or something like that with some recommendations for you for Icelandic music.
Because I think that's a clever move, because I had people on the walks trying to write down Spilverk Þjóðanna on their phones, and that halted the walk, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So get easy on the Icelandic spelling.
Yeah. So guys, I think we're just perfect. We were only going to be about 1 hour, but now we are at 1:25. So I think we have had a lot of questions answered, but don't be shy. You can always comment later, and I'll try to answer anything. What's your last Icelander favorite? What's your favorite LP?
I can't mention any. Always when I'm asked this, I don't remember anything.
Yeah,
there's a great band now, a very young band called Inspector Spacetime. Young kids doing poppy, dancey, fun pop. I of course have to mention my favorite Icelandic band, Ham.
Yeah.
Which is a great rock metal band from Iceland, which every Icelander love. It's like a cult band. There's a lot of love for Ham.
Yeah, it's strange how they cross any boundaries. Musically, everybody. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If you hear a sample of their music, you wouldn't believe that the Icelanders have like a consensus about this band.
Yeah.
But we have. Inspector Spacetime. And they can also look at the recording.
Yes, of course. So guys, I think we'll wrap it up. Takk fyrir okkur, Arnar, Reykjavik Music Walk. If you come to Iceland, when you come to Iceland, then looking them up, Reykjavik Music Walk for a chat and a walk about Icelandic music. And your Friend In Reykjavik, I'll be live next Saturday for the Icelandic Penis Museum. Saturday at 4 p.m. So check that out. The only museum of its kind, where it's got some members of most species in and around Iceland. So check that out. But takk fyrir okkur.
Takk.
And broadcast